This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
Welcome, Alphas. Thanks for joining us. We're in the middle of a great show for you. Our guest today is award-winning filmmaker Kyle Hausmann-Stokes, a former Army paratrooper whose film, My Dead Friend Zoe, received accolades from the film festival circuit in 2024, including winner of the Audience Award for Best Narrative Feature at South by Southwest. And if you don't know, that's a big one. We're going to chat
watch
with
that
Kyle
trailer.
shortly.
Watch the trailer for that. I'm just saying.
Watch the movie for it.
Watch the movie too.
Watch the whole movie. The trailer will sell it, though.
Start with the trailer, proceed to the movie. We're going to chat with Kyle shortly. But before that, Stacy's got something for us. What you got for us, Stacy?
Yeah, Adam. Tomorrow marks the 22nd anniversary of the fall of Baghdad. And sometimes for me, it feels like yesterday. But then I'm reminded that it is the 2 decades and 2 years that it's been, especially like right now when my joints ache and I know that it's been that long. I was actually on exercise in Korea when I was watching the bombardment happen over Baghdad. And just weeks later, I was actually there going in and out of Baghdad. After we actually had ground force invasions. And then, gosh, I was there, it feels like all the time, until my life changed forever. It's crazy. And, you know, I know Kyle was there and Adam, you were there, and Joe, you were there. So this anniversary, I think, it comes around every year, but can you guys believe that it's been this long? I mean, it's wild, right? Do you remember? I mean, I remember the stat, you know, the bomb. First of all, the bombs, the bombing, and then the ground invasion and the falling of the statue of Saddam, and for me, it was sort of punctuated when I was there. First of all, doing like my evac missions, and then I was flying on Blackhawks, doing the initial sort of post-bombardment aerial assessments. Because as an aerial combat photographer, one of the things my jobs was to do the post-bombardment, and so I would take pictures and send those back to the Pentagon, and they can kind of assess how things looked and strategize what they needed to do to start in initial civil engineering rebuilding and figure out points and strategies and bridges and things like that. So just seeing what the city looked like from between 200 and 500 feet, which really, you know, and then to go back over the years and see how the city changed over time. So it'd be interesting. Go ahead. Sorry, Adam.
No, I was just going to say it's really interesting to hear your experience in perspective, especially grabbing the images that were used at such a strategic level to help shape, you know, the impact of what was done and inform, you know, follow-on operations. So, you know, my experience in Iraq was different because I didn't deploy there till 2010. So, you know, quite a while. It's actually where Obama in the administration was trying to wind down combat operations. So it was definitely an interesting time to be there. You know, September 11th was my senior year of high school. So, you know, I remember watching the initial invasion as an ROTC student. And, you know, you're just thinking like, well, surely this thing isn't going to be going on 4 years after I graduate. And then every year, you know, from sophomore year to junior year to senior year, you realize like, I don't think there's any foreseeable like end in sight. And then it was like very much like, okay, like I'm ready. But then it was like flight school and then like 2 years of flight school and then like getting to a unit. And it was kind of that thing too, where, you know, since I was 18 years old in ROTC, And now here I am, like 25, 26, and I'm like finally deploying to the combat zone that's winding down. And so, that was just my own personal experience. But I flew with a lot of guys that were on the initial invasion, providing the aerial oversight, and hearing their stories, having to fly forward, and thinking about refueling, right? Where's the base where you're going to refuel and having to position certain assets, forward for the aircraft to be able to land in the field and refuel to be able to bring the line forward. And so just really interesting about from the invasion all the way to the winding down of operations, and then the sustained operations that even continued after that. So yeah, I guess I don't reflect back on it so much. I think a lot about the future and how to move forward. So it's nice
my
to
end,
take a little time and look back.
On my end, I was going through, basic and core school field med. And so everything that I knew about what was happening in Baghdad, I learned from the documentary / hit song Bombs Over Baghdad by Outkast.
Yeah.
Great
Well,
song, great
I
song, by
remember
the way.
those songs playing quite loudly from the psy-ops trucks. When we didn't even have doors on the trucks, we did have radios playing it proudly from the tops. But
I got pulled as a Navy corpsman, got pulled in with a psy-ops unit one time. And I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect what I experienced. Those Army psy-ops guys, shout out to you guys. I don't know if you guys remember me, but we rolled through Fallujah playing Bombs Over Baghdad. And I was sitting here thinking I could die here and it would be awesome to go out listening to Outkast. If it's going to happen, this is how I want it to go.
well,
I'd want to go out to Sorry Miss Jackson.
Sorry, Miss Jackson.
Are you for real?
Ooh, I am for real. In all seriousness, it is a 22nd anniversary, but Adam, you said it so eloquently, not to live in the past, but to continue to look in the future. And I think, yes, it's an anniversary. Yes, our lives changed forever. Mine did. But I think in many positive ways. I wouldn't change a thing. I learned a lot. It definitely impacted my young adult life. It changed the trajectory of my life. I think it molded me into, and it shaped me into the person, the adult that I am today, making changes, hopefully, and making positive impacts for other people, and doing things for good. And so I definitely look at this anniversary in a positive way. And for the Iraqi people, hopefully they are doing things for their country, within their country, and for their people in positive ways as well. And so for all you alphas out there who have been impacted by Operation Iraqi Freedom, thinking about you on this anniversary. And yeah, that's all I got.
Thanks. All right, alphas, please stick around. We'll be back with the Kyle Hausmann-Stokes right after the break.
The American Legion is raising awareness about PTSD and veteran suicide by offering hope, camaraderie, and support.
Be the one to help end veteran suicide.
Be the one to save one veteran.
Be the one to ask a veteran in your life how they're doing.
Be the one to reach out when a veteran is struggling.
Go to betheone.org and help the American Legion end veteran suicide.
Will you be the one?
All right, today we're joined by award-winning filmmaker Kyle Hausmann-Stokes. Kyle, welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast,
Thank you.
brother.
It's good to be here. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Kyle, welcome to the show, and thank you for your service. I want to start out by getting to know a little bit about you, like where you're from, why you chose the Army of all the branches to choose, and what you did in the service, what your transition was like, and how you ended up in the entertainment industry.
Yeah. Okay. That's a couple questions. I will try to be quick with it. Stacy, my grandmother said I should have joined the Air Force. They have the nicest uniforms. Clearly, I missed that note. But yes, I joined the Army. I'm born and raised in Wisconsin. I'm from a small town called Verona, which is outside of Madison. A lot of military in my family. And my grandfather was a lieutenant colonel, retired Army, 22 years, Vietnam, 2 tours. And he was, I don't know, kind of my hero growing up. My uncle flew helicopters in the Army, and then I went over to fixed wing in the Air Force. And I think when I was a little guy in northern Wisconsin, where my grandparents had a cabin, 4th of July, You guys probably know the story. The band plays, every branch's song, and you stand if you've served in that branch. And my grandpa and my uncle, also my aunt, would stand during the Army song, and I thought they were just like 100 feet tall. And those exact words are in this film many times that I've just made, and I think that's a big reason why I wanted to join. So I joined a month before 9/11, so great timing there.
Mhm.
And I was in basic training when 9/11 happened. And yeah, a lot to say about that, but I was a paratrooper in the infantry. I served 5 years total. I was in Iraq, 07, 08. And I can tell that longer story too, if you want, of like how that transitioned from the military into Hollywood. But I think I've just always been driven to make films, but specifically about veterans and military, kind of like about our people. There's so few of us that get the chance to do it. So yeah.
Where were you based in 07, 08 when you were in Iraq?
I was a convoy commander, so we quote slept over at other people's house every night. I mean, technically we picked up convoys in Camp Buren and Camp Virginia in Kuwait, right on the border, and then I take them to, Bayat, Mosul, Marez, sometimes Fallujah, Tikrit, Anaconda. I would say that we were like Mad Max road warriors. And,
Oh, nice.
yeah,
That's a tough job. I mean,
it sucked a lot. Yeah, it really did. It ruined road trips for me forever. And
I was going to say, how are your driving skills these days?
I mean, I was the convoy commander, so I was a staff sergeant, so luckily I didn't have to drive at that point.
No, I mean, like, do you shy away from every bottle on the road, every like?
I would say it's my only lingering. Everybody talks about, how your service has affected you, PTSD. I talk about post-traumatic growth a lot. But yeah, that is probably the one thing that I don't know if that'll ever go away. Yesterday, there was like a long strand of black and copper wire right across the freeway. And I'm like, I can't drive over that. In a safe way, I will avoid it. But yeah.
Yeah. So how long were you in the service before you separated?
5 years.
Okay.
There's actually technically I was in for 3 years, and then I got out, and then I was recalled to come back into the Army. You guys have ever heard of it? Yeah. You too? Yeah.
Me? No, I was medically retired. They didn't want me back.
I mean, have you guys heard of the IRR? Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Anybody that's been recalled?
No.
Yeah, so I'm the one lucky jerk that you'll meet.
No, I've known plenty of people that were recalled. It's just that sucks. I'm sorry for you, Kyle.
Well, here's how the story goes. I'll make it the really quick one. So I'm in the Army for 3 years. It's 2004. It's the end of my enlistment. We're set to get out, and we get stop lost because I was part of the 509th Airborne at Fort Polk, Louisiana, JRTC. We train people to go to war. You guys probably all know that. I'm sure your listeners do. So I was Geronimo. I was the bad guy that kept you up at 3 a.m. terrorizing your unit. That's what we did. And in 2004, everybody had deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. So we were kind of like the last active airborne infantry unit that hadn't gone forward. So we got stop lost. And so my big plans to get out of the Army, go to college, were instantly put on hold. It was very scary and emotional. But I get called to come to my battalion commander's office one fateful night. And I'm standing there and he says, Sergeant, I've seen your films. I've seen your movies. And I think I'm in very big trouble because I was not supposed to be making films. I was not combat camera like you, Stacy. I was a grunt. But I would sneak my little, VHS camcorder out onto our training operations. We jumped out of C-130s and Chinooks and Hueys and Blackhawks and all this stuff. And I would cut them into these ridiculous music videos in my barracks room. This is pre-YouTube, pre-even Adobe Premiere, early stuff. And I would disseminate them to the Joes, throughout the barracks. I had these really rad VHS sleeves that I printed on my printer, and I made like hundreds of these things. And I kind of got to be known as this like under the radar battalion film guy. And then eventually the married guys would start to come to the barracks and be like, hey, Private, what's that video? I've heard about this. And that was a bit of an aha moment for me when I was like, well, why would you want this? You're a captain. He's like, well, so I can show my family. and my so they can see what their dad does. I'm using the male because I was in an infantry unit that was all men. But they, that was like a big moment to be like, wow, there's power in this storytelling. So then cut back to my colonel's office, and he says, Sergeant, I've seen your films. I'm thinking I'm about to be Article 15 or something like that. It was quite the opposite. He said, they're good. They're important. And because of that, you didn't ask me to do this, but I've made arrangements for you and only you to be exempt from this stop loss. And the way that you're going to pay it back to your battle buddies by not going forward with them is that you are going to get out of the Army now as you're supposed to. You're going to find the best film school in the world. You're going to hone your craft, and you will tell the soldiers' story.
Oh my gosh. You just made the hairs rise on my arm. I love that you said that, Kyle.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
Yeah. Well, I was speechless. I think I can't remember. I saluted him, and like a week later, I was gone off of Fort Polk, driving west. And 2.5 years later, I get into USC. I'm like a junior, which is when film school starts. I found out that USC is a pretty good film school. Took me 2 tries to get in there. And the same week that I got accepted to USC, I get a little letter in the mail from Army's Human Resources Command recalling me to come back to just as I was about to start. And so I did that. I packed up my stuff, put it in storage, cut my hair, dropped out of USC for a year and a half, back into the Army. So surreal. That's when I deployed to Iraq, 07, 08. I was part of the surge. And but that's also where this film that we're going to talk about came from. And that's where I met some of my battle buddies that this film's inspired by. And there was a colonel, a very faithful guy that put me on this path.
Wow. That's incredible, Kyle.
That's beautiful. I mean, because you talk about maximum impact. In a weird sort of way, everything that I went through as a corpsman was like I wanted to take care of people. That's all I've ever wanted to do. Like when I leave, oh man, y'all are gonna get me today. Oh my gosh! All right, so I'm the local crier. Just a heads up.
Town crier. Here we go.
So for me, all I've ever wanted to do my whole life was for people to be better around me, whether it's someone else that I'm helping or whether I do it myself. I just love it when people leave the world just a slightly better place. And it starts in a room that you're in every time, or a family you're in, or a unit you're in. And so for me, I don't hide from my emotions. I've found a way to use them, even anger, in ways that aren't destructive.
Yep.
And I watched the short making of video for my Dead Friend Zoe. And I'll be honest, I couldn't even type the website into my browser without tearing up. The name is visceral. It won't let you hide behind any soft wording, because you just say it so plainly. And yet, in the context of the story, it still has 2 meanings. I mean, there's layers to what you've done here, and it's just brilliant. It's going to be the very next movie that I watch as soon as I feel like I can make it through the entire movie. But even when I was telling my wife upstairs before we were doing the interview, I was like, I am beyond stoked to talk to this guy, because he's doing something that I think is incredible, that I really, 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 really think is important. So my point is, as veterans, we've got stories to tell. We felt and endured things that, as veterans, that many people don't get a chance to live through, and they're hard things. And sometimes the only way to get those things out of your heart is to tell those stories. So for veterans who want to get into creative industries, whether it's film, writing, media, or being a crochetist, what advice would you give these people, and how can organizations like the American Legion better support veteran artists and storytellers?
Yeah. Well, let me say first, Joe, and thank you for sharing that. For you, as someone's preparing to watch this film, and anyone else, zero preparation needed. This is made by a veteran. I seal my seal of approval. This is not emotional hijacking. I am very dissatisfied with most of the military veteran stuff that's put out there. I think we all are, to one degree or another. This is not the kind of film where you are going to make you feel badly or emotional in the wrong way. And I'll just say straight up, there's no action in this film. There's no gunfire. There's no blood. this is not a war film. They're barely in Afghanistan. This is a film about veterans. It's not a pity party. They're not weak. They're not broken. This is an uplifting, positive film about post-traumatic growth. It's funny. I mean, she's got a dead friend. Imagine like your battle buddy from platoon, the one that had the most wise ass mouth, was following you around. It had commentary on your life and your choices. Like,
Yeah.
it's that. Yes, you will feel feels at the end as well, but like after a lot of years of watching Hollywood try to tell our story, this is us telling our own. And I'm like, on the one hand, I'm an enlisted infantry guy that knows how to be, crass and rough, but at the other hand, I'm like a very sensitive artist, and so like you're in good hands. There's nothing to worry about. You can eat popcorn and jujubes as you're watching the film. You're gonna like it. So, yeah. And I think to answer your question too, how can we like support more veterans get into the arts? I mean, I think this is a shameless plug, but I co-founded an organization in 2012 called Veterans in Media and Entertainment. So regardless of the fact if I had something to do with that, I don't run it anymore. I ran it for a handful of years, handed it over to two amazing women named Karen Kraft and Rebecca Murga. And if you want to do film or TV and you're a vet, you are out of line if you are not a member of VME, because it's free. There's 5,000 members. It's all across the country. Great resource. And so I think that's a great place to start for film and TV specifically. And I'm not an expert, but I have to imagine if you're into photography or any other kind of art form, that there are organizations out there specifically for veterans. The last thing I'll say, sorry, my congestion nose here, is I'm kind of two minds when it comes to, like, I think we veterans need to band together in our post-service way, just like we're doing right here on this phone call. And I equally think that we need to go out and be a member of the civilian world. So just because there's not like a, veteran horseback riding program, which of course there are, but crocheting, just because there's not a crocheting program for veterans doesn't mean that you get frustrated and then blame the VA for some reason and say, no one's thinking about me. It's like, take the agency that we gained in the military and just go out into the world and just either create it yourself or just, the military is over for us now. It's like a great story. It's a great thing that was a part of us, but it does not consume our identity going forward. So I think just be an artist. You can be an artist that happens to be a veteran, but you don't need to be a veteran artist.
You're a rock star, man. Great answer. Thanks.
Kyle, I want to just tie a few things together that you kind of said earlier, because there's some really cool parallels in our time in service. My last duty station, I was Alpha 20 at Fort Polk. And so I was the TAC OC in charge of all attack assets coming in for the Joint Airborne, infill. So that's pretty cool. I know Fort Polk quite well. I lived in DeRidder there.
Sorry about that.
Also, right. So I was thinking about, like, as you were leaving and heading west with Fort Polk in the rearview mirror, I know what it's like to leave with Fort Polk in the rearview mirror, and it feels pretty good.
It's pretty good, yeah. Not as good as leaving Fort Knox. That one felt better, but yes.
Yeah. And then let's see, 0709, I was in flight school at Fort Rucker, learning to fly helicopters. My unit I went to, where I then became platoon leader and commander and deployed with, was Fort Riley, 11 ARB, the gunfighters. And they were in Iraq, in Baghdad, I think predominantly, for the 0709 rotation. And I know directly, I mean, those guys all trained me on how to fly and listening to the story. There's like basically two most intense periods of combat, in Iraq, 0405, Fallujah, Ramadi. And then there's the surge in Baghdad, really in the 0709. And, that's when you were there, learning how to not like road trips.
Right.
And then so just like the really cool parallels. And so I appreciate also what you've shared thus far about creating the film and your different approach on trying to tell it in a different light and story. And also for our audience, I don't know if they know this, but it also won the South by Southwest Audience Award and the Woodstock Grand Jury Best Narrative, and that's no small feat. So you've also done all these things. You've told this film and created and captured it, in kind of a different way than most have been able to do, but also some really special, exciting things, and exciting actors, got involved with it. What was that process like for you, seeing that unfold? And I think that there's a little part that you left out about, the story and the stop loss too, and creating this, was that 20 years later, you got to go back to that sergeant and tell him that that guy that invested in you and basically did something that nobody else was doing. Now, 2 decades later, here you are, like,
Yeah.
delivering this, like, thank you for that opportunity.
No,
Wow.
you're right. You're right. I sometimes I worry about being too long-winded with stories, but no, that is the end of the story, and so I'll tell that right now. Is that 20 years later, on the eve of me flying to Austin, Texas for the South by Southwest Film Festival, which for folks that don't know the film world, that's like the one. It's Sundance and South by. It's like the World Series and Super Bowl. So getting into that was just an unbelievable dream come true. I didn't know that we were going to win also. So that was crazy. But I was not in touch with that colonel since he sent me on my way. Why would I be? I was a E5. I think we barely were using email, maybe kind of, but I don't think I had much email anyway, couldn't find the guy, tried a couple times, I think he ended up going to the Pentagon, took over some big command, whatever it is, and couldn't find him. And then it felt like in one day, I'm about to leave, like news breaks, that my dead friend Zoe has been accepted to South by Southwest. And I get an email from him out of nowhere saying, "Squared away, Sergeant, like you stayed on mission," and it was pretty cool. And I then reconnected with this colonel, and I sent him the film, and he loved it, and he's very moved by it. And he came to Los Angeles 4 weeks ago for our premiere, and he walked the red carpet with me and some of my battle buddies from my platoon, and we took the photos, and it's pretty cool. He just sent me his video last night of in Hawaii, where he lives now and retired, and his friends, they did a theater buyout of the movie, so it's
Wow.
it's pretty full circle.
That's
Well,
cool.
I think it's cool because, like, you think about it from your perspective, right, of like what it means to you, but then like also thinking from that, that NCO's perspective of investing, in a soldier and doing something and stepping out, and then what that means for him. And then there's probably like a larger theme that could be extracted there. That's like, how many times, do we have our NCOs and our leaders and our officers, or if you're in that leadership position, like how can you help do something for, your soldiers, for those that, possess creative, incredible skills and ability. And, maybe everybody does in one way or another, but definitely to pull that out, that you had such a unique talent that was like unseen, like anything else, right? In the box at the time. And so
I've heard people say that too. Like everybody is really meaningfully influenced by at least one person in their life, and it's for some people it means something very big and tangible. For other people, it's maybe more internal. But it's also like at some phase of your life, you are the recipient of that, and then at another phase, you're the giver of that. And I think a lot about that. And so that was, the way the colonel would tell it. Colonel Daniel C. Griffith is his name. Is that he got the more out of it, and he's like, you would do this anyway. I was just getting in the way. And he's like, we can always build another paratrooper. We can't build another filmmaker that knows our story. So but anyway, I couldn't be more grateful to him and just everybody that's helped along the way. It really does take a squad size element or a platoon or a company to do anything. And on that note, I've just to bury the lead for people, because there's a lot of films out there that are good, but there's no one in it that you've heard of. And unfortunately, that's how people watch movies. So here's another reason to watch this movie. Ready? Morgan Freeman, Ed Harris, Sonequa Martin Green, Natalie Morales, Utkarsh Ambudkar, and Gloria Rubin. So we have an all-star A-list cast in this film, and I worked very hard to, again, I did not want to make a small little indie, I wanted to make a commercial, broad film that is not for veterans. It's for everyone. It's about people that happen to be veterans So yeah, and hopefully that cast with those names will bring people into it, and they have. I guess the other just little way to be a little braggadocious here is that aside from winning, South by, we are now the top 3 rated film in the country. We are
Wow.
95% certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it's doing really well, and we actually just need people to see it at home now. We're done with our box office, and now box office is tough. Getting people to come out to the theaters, I'll just say in a nutshell, was very difficult. And that's there's only 2 ways that a film can make its money back: to the filmmakers, to the artist, to the people that invested. You got to get people to see it in movie theaters. If they don't want to do that, you got to get them to rent it or buy it at home. And that just happened for us yesterday. Yesterday was our big at-home rental launch. So it's available on Apple and iTunes. And we are just beating the pavement right now to get people to go out and see it at home.
And by the way, you can brag anytime as long as you use the term braggadocious before you do so. So that's our rule. That's how we've always done it.
Yeah.
Kyle, I want to really thank you so much for giving us space on the screen as well for women in the military.
Yes.
Because, we're so often only in a minor role and often, playing backseat. So putting us in the forefront really makes me happy. I couldn't even watch the trailer without sorry. It really resonated with me, with my battle buddy. Anyway, it hit home. I was there in the surge during 2007 when my battle buddy was shot. Thankfully, she survived that experience, but several of our friends did not. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing that film. But I was telling the fellas before we even logged on today that I'm definitely going to have to wait until I see my therapist next week before I watch the film. And I know you said it's like, not a trigger warning, but got to make sure I'm in the right headspace.
No, totally.
Obviously, if I can't watch the trailer without drawing tears on myself, it's probably going to be a tearjerker. But anyway,
trailers are silly. They throw in all the crazy.
I know they want to get you spun up, but the reason why I'm getting teary is that in a time where I feel like we are kind of getting buffed out of history, it's nice to be able to be in the forefront of a film that's giving us the space to be seen. And so thank you for doing that, Kyle.
Yeah.
Because we were all there fighting together and we all share these human experiences. And whether we are, as you said, it's not just a military film, it's a human film with human feelings and processing. And I think that's an amazing thing.
Well, Stacey, I can talk about that it's actually like the number 2
I would love to hear it.
Why women? And I only say it like that because I'm a man, and the battle buddy that it's based on is also a guy. But I very intentionally from the very beginning said, nope, I'm switching the genders. And why did I do that? If that's the question, or if that's interesting. Yeah, I guess the reason is I served only with men. I didn't have the pleasure of serving with women while I was in the military because I was in the infantry, and this is in 07 and 08 during, Army's archaic times when women were not allowed in combat arms. That has since changed for the better. I certainly hope it stays that way. So I didn't have that experience. And then I get out of the military and fast forward 10 years and I've completed film school, and I've dedicated myself to telling the soldier and veteran story. I was producing and directing a campaign for the VA called MakeTheConnection.net. I don't know if you guys have heard of it or seen it. It's an incredible website. I'm really proud of it. People should still use it. It's free. It's like 500 plus videos, interviews with veterans talking about all the things. And anyway, I interviewed, I'd say about hundreds of the people that I interviewed for that hour-long interviews were women from all branches, from all eras. And I was completely blown away by their stories, and I had no idea. And so it just didn't seem right. I was like, we have we've got enough white straight guy movies in the military, you know? And so I think at that moment, I decided if I ever got the opportunity to tell my story on the big screen, it would be my story, but it would be other people's as well. It would be, you know, half the cup would be half mine and it would be half others. And so a lot of the women that I spoke with, I, you know, like firsthand channeled their stories into the character of Merritt and Zoe. And so, and I just think it's a cool era of storytelling that we're in, that I think that this could go either way, you know, race, gender, nationality, age, whatever. Like, okay, it started as this thing, but what if the character was that, and what does that do? And I think story is universal, and I think we can all learn from each other. I also think specificity is makes things more universal, oddly. So anyway, I didn't feel like I was doing it for any, like, this is what should be done. It was the correct way to tell this story. And I'm glad that it resonated with you, Stacy. And yeah, I hope it's the first of many to come.
I think that's tremendous. So I saw that it's loosely based on a true story. Is this your true story?
It's very a true story. I say it's 93% autobiographical. Yes, this is this whole, me, my grandpa, loss of my friends, my post journey. This is a very autobiographical film. Yes.
Only the bathrooms have been changed.
That's right.
Oh my gosh, Joe.
Yeah.
So do you have a lake house we can all visit then? Is that true?
We do actually. I mean, and once you see the film, you'll understand that there's actually some, anyway, that is a point of conflict, but yes. Yeah. My grandfather, Ed Harris plays my grandfather. And
that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
Who gets to say that? Ed Harris plays my grandpa.
Well, my grandpa doesn't really seem to care, you know. I mean,
but he's also a veteran, though, right? So he's got his own demons he's kind of processing as well, though, right?
Yes, Ed Harris's character, my grandfather, his name is Dale. Yes, he's a Vietnam vet. Actually, no, he is not experiencing necessarily PTSD, at least in the garden variety way that it's always depicted. He's going through something else. He's aging at this point, and and so that's why I said it's like a family story. It's like Merritt is an Afghanistan veteran that is dealing with her dead friend Zoe, who is present. She's in mandatory group therapy for something that happens, and Morgan Freeman is the group counselor trying to get her to share about it. She's very resistant to share about it, as I was. I was very thick-headed, didn't believe in talk therapy or any of this woo-woo crap, and I was way wrong about that. Morgan Freeman is based on a very real person from my life, a VA counselor that helped me to see the light, so to speak. And
therapy is good.
Therapy is good.
And being wrong is important.
Well, Joe, you are always wrong, so I'm glad you admitted that.
That's why I have so much room for growth.
I think it's one of the strongest things a person can say is, you know, I was wrong. I try to say that. I try not to be wrong. I mean, but I think when you are wrong, it's really good to own it. And when other people say that to me, I'm like, oof, I really trust you that much deeper now.
Nothing makes you trust someone more than seeing them self-correct. I mean, seriously, it makes somebody more attractive as a human being, and it shows a level of self-awareness that is vital for close friendships.
Yep.
And anytime I see anybody who can go, you know what, I was actually wrong about that, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, did I just make a new best friend?
Right.
because I'm all in now. I love anybody that self-corrects.
Totally.
I love it.
Totally.
So, you know, I kind of want to jump back a little bit to the, the Veterans of Media and Entertainment, Hollywood Post 43.
Yeah.
So you grew that from, where was it when you first started? How many?
It was members? In a basement. It was in a basement. As all good things, you know, basement or garage. But Hollywood American Legion Post 43 in the cabaret room. It's like a banquet hall in the basement, kind of like, you know, dimly lit, you know, a bunch of chairs stacked in the corner. I mean, come on, we all know the vibe. And it was me and another veteran, a Marine Corps veteran named Mike Dowling, and Army and Marines. We were getting along there. And we just actually wanted to join the veterans group in Hollywood. And we're like, great, let's join that. There wasn't one, you know? And so kind of to my earlier point, I'm like, okay, I guess, and this is where we veterans are kind of like, I don't know, too industrious for our own good. We were like, well, I guess we'll just have to start it ourselves. So we went upstairs and pitched it to like the committee. We had other people helping us that kind of like facilitated. You know, it was me and Mike. We didn't know anything about the American Legion. We met another guy named Mike. We met a guy named Aaron. We met various other folks that were like of our same generation of veterans, but they could talk to the older guys and girls, or men and women who are up there. And we went up and pitched them this idea, and we were full of kind of piss and vinegar. And we're like, we're going to do this thing in the basement. We're going to revitalize this post and this Legion. And they were kind of like, yeah, settle down. Like, let's
calm down, hero.
Yeah. And they were right at first. And then we were right in the end. Our first meeting, I think, was like a dozen people. It was not much. The next meeting was like 30 people. And the next one was like 100.
Wow.
And then everyone since then was like, we filled it 150, 180 people in one basement area. We would have a big keynote speaker every event. We had Stan Lee, who's a veteran. We had Ron Meyer, who's the president of NBC Universal, who's a devil dog. We had Gail Ann Hurd, the producer of Terminator and all these huge films. So we had really cool guests. And you're a vet, you get to go to the Legion, you get to lean on a bar, you get to drink a cheap beer, you get to listen to a keynote, and then you get to just commune with other veterans doing Hollywood stuff. And it was great. It was just, it's just the kind of community that I was looking for afterwards. And so, yeah, we built that in the basement, and it still lives today. And it's VME. It's now called VME, has become like the conduit between Hollywood and the veteran community. So if they're looking to cast veterans, if they're looking to bring veterans into any part of the process, they come right to VME. We do training. We have a lot of different opportunity programs, things like that. So it's just a really cool organization. And this sounds kind of cliche, but it is like you kind of get out what you put in. Yeah. So, and it's all volunteer. We don't have a paid staff or anything like that. So like once you join, you get into the Facebook groups, you got to have a DD 214. That has to be approved by us. But then once you're in the ecosystem, then you can start making connections, looking around what's available. And it was all born at the American Legion, and I couldn't be more grateful to the Legion. And let me tell you this quick thing too. This movie that we're talking about, My Dead Friend Zoe, was also kind of born at the American Legion because this post 43 that I now have a relationship with since 2012, in trying to make My Dead Friend Zoe, before there was Ed Harris and Morgan Freeman and all this stuff, there was nothing. There was just me and a script trying to get it made. And we've all heard this story. This is where most films go to die. It's insanely difficult to get a movie made. And especially going from 0 to 1, when you've not done it before, no one's going to give you the chance to do it. So you have to create your own inertia. Anyway, after 2 years of writing the film, rewriting it, pitching it, having it set up, having it fall apart, I decided to make a short film version, which is called Merit X Zoe, or Merit and Zoe. You can Google it. It's online. And that was my proof of concept. That was my creating my own rocket fuel, to make the feature. And then I threw myself a premiere at the Hollywood American Legion. And they've got a beautiful theater there. Shout out to all of the people that if you guys haven't seen it, if your members haven't seen it, it's like a $4 million state-of-the-art theater inside an American Legion, and like the big studios, Netflix, people rent it out for big bucks. It's awesome. It's beautiful. It's Art Deco era. Anyway, I was able to I paid for it, but I was able to convince them to give me a members deal. And I threw myself a premiere. So we showed my short film, 14 minutes long, in this big, beautiful theater. I invited the whole cast and crew, and I told people to invite other people, and they did. And there was a guy there who saw the short film, was very moved by it. And he connected me with the production company that ultimately made My Dead Friend Zoe. So all of it happened at the American Legion. And then fast forward to, like I said, just years go by, and now we've made this film and all this stuff happens. And then, we just had our Los Angeles premiere at the Hollywood American Legion, and my colonel was there, and Ed Harris and Sonequa were there, and we did a big Q&A, and then we went down into that same basement, and we drank beers, and it was great. So
that's cool. Quick follow-up. So Do you guys do? So I'm an author, right? Sci-fi fantasy. I also do book narration. Do you guys do that kind of stuff?
Yes, yes. There's, I mean,
I had no clue.
voice acting is definitely a thing, and there are some vets within VME that definitely are very. They get a lot of work through the voiceover and just because it's all part of the same
You guys
stuff.
be hearing from me because
Yeah,
I love voice acting. It's so
yeah,
fun.
it
He's
really is.
mainly looking for toothpaste commercials.
Hey, someone's got to do those.
Or pharmaceuticals.
What?
Viagra.
Yeah.
Kyle, I just want to reflect on that story you just told, because I think you hit on so many wonderful things that I just want to highlight for the listeners. And I think maybe like the first is just the full circleness of being able to be willing to branch out, to be a
Yeah.
part of something, right? To show up. So really heard you kind of say that a few times today, and couldn't agree more. I think when I got out in 2015, the Legion or the VFW or anything like that was kind of like the last thing on my mind. And like 10 years later, I'm a part of my local post in rural Alabama, trying to help them think through, we have a different problem set. Like, how do we get a building, like our own building, right?
Mhm.
So maybe like there's, some people out there listening and being like, wow, it's great to have all those people come in from the movie industry in a $4 million like facility, and how like we can't do that, and maybe there's like a little bit of doubt in your mind. And so what I would say, like, one is you were able to innovate based off the circumstances of the geographic area and location that you were in, and made something keenly relevant to you, your interest, your capability, what you wanted to do, your vision, and then found a post and a location that was also a right fit for that, so that that thing could live right there. Probably, maybe there's a post in New York, maybe where that can happen, but like, for all intents and purposes, that's the one spot. So it doesn't have to be the exact same thing that you did. Like, look at the tenets of what happened there: a willingness to show up, a look at what I have to offer, and what is the vision that I want to be a part of, and can I build that in community, and what's right for right here. So I think that can practically be applied to anybody listening in the Legion, to say how we might be able to do something exciting. I love the keynote idea too. Who are the local people, like Chamber of Commerce style, that's, relevant to your community, that you can maybe bring in and create some excitement there. So
Totally.
it's really cool to see what you've done with veterans and media and entertainment, how you've partnered that with the Legion to be able to really help launch this thing, to grow it into this, and then come back and celebrate there. The way that you're telling stories, the realness, the rawness, but also bring in a side that hasn't happened, a little bit of the comedy side. And so with your ability to show up and story tell, what's next for you? I mean, I know it's the promotion of the movie, but is it more of like being able to create content that you're excited about? Or is
Yeah.
it more about being this out front leader within the community to show people kind of how to come together more in ways that we're really just starting to grow into for our generation?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's both of those things. I mean, on the movie front, I mean, you're only a filmmaker if you're making films, and it's a tough, I mean, it's just a very tough industry. It's a very tough job to have. Like, don't be fooled by the red carpet photos. Like that person works once every 3 years, and, doesn't have health benefits, and, is, living off a nest egg that they made 3 years ago. So like, it's a tough business. And there's a lot of people that want to do it. There's a lot of really talented people that have been doing it for a long time that are also trying to get the same. There's only a handful of like films that a studio or that the industry can make per year. And our industry right now is contracting. So my next immediate goal is to be making the next film. And I have a couple things. I have one that was brought to me that I've kind of gotten involved with, that I would direct, and it's about brothers. So Zoe's about women. This one is that's a different segue to the other film. This is about brothers, and one of them going to the NFL and one of them going to the MLB. And it's a true story. It's a great true story. So it's a sports film. It's a little bit like Rudy meets Rocky meets Jerry Maguire. So excited about that. I feel like America likes sports ball. So, that'll be good. And then the other one is, like I was saying before, Zoe was definitively about women. I have been working on another film that is about men. And I think there's a lot to be looked at and fixed with us men. And this film is a dark comedy called Men's Group, and it's about adult male friendship and how for many men that's lacking, and how male loneliness is like a real thing. And anyway, it's another kind of like big meaty issue that I think everybody can maybe relate to or has an opinion on. But similar to Zoe, I'm gonna approach it through the lens of humor and levity, but also real pathos in there, and hopefully persuade men to think about their emotions and how they communicate. And men, I think, also need to have people other than their spouses that they can go and talk to about things. And we Americans are particularly good at men particularly at not having friends. You go to other cultures, you see old guys in the park drinking their weird drink, playing chess until whatever, like they have that community there. In the US, not the case. Most adult men report that they have less than one close friend. And even that is more like a buddy. It's very surface. It's not really deep. So anyway, that's the other project I'm.
And what was the name of that one? Men's Group?
Men's Group.
I'll have to keep an eye on that.
It's about a guy who's kind of like, his life suddenly changes, and he inadvertently starts a local men's group in the basement of an American Legion. I'm not lying about that.
No way.
Yeah. Of course, you got to write what you know.
Let's go, baby.
And then this group gets out of hand, and it expands in a huge way. It's kind of like Fight Club in that way.
I was about to say it's like Fight Club, but it's like Hug Club.
Well, I think what you've proven, Kyle, is that you have the ability to navigate some complex themes and do so in a way that's refreshing, fun, and exciting for folks. Yeah. And so being able to apply that formula to the concept of men being able to be more vulnerable, open, and heart-centered, right? To be able to live more fully, to heal from things of the past and step forward into a beautiful future. There's a lot of people working on that, but not a lot of people, just like that sergeant back at Fort Polk, there's not a lot of people that can do it in the way that you are. So thanks for sharing that with us. It's exciting. Yeah. And I'll just tell you, man, it's so needed. Needed.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot to learn from women in many, many respects, but I mean, that's a big one. And there's some great books out there, but I mean, again, these are generalizations, so just calling that out. But like, women tend to, they're good at communication with each other. They will get lunch and they will sit face to face and commune. They use the phone to stay in touch. Men, we're just like everything we do is shoulder to shoulder, not facing each other. There's bowling, there's golfing, there's sitting at the bar. Everything is meant to like not fully be vulnerable and engage, and again, just like think about the difference between a buddy and a friend. And anyway, yeah, I think more lessons for men from women. I guess we'll get there. So
couldn't agree more, Kyle.
Yeah.
Well,
Need some mama's boys in there.
I have a Native American spiritual elder, and so I agree with all that. And then he has this beautiful analogy that's like, the male, the husband, is the right wing, and the female, the spouse, the wife, is the left wing. And the eagle can only soar to its greatest heights when they're working as one in unison. And so, we have to be individually whole to be able to, provide our functions within that. But there's also a beautiful symbiosis that we have together as well.
Yep, absolutely.
That's pretty poetic.
Yeah.
Huh.
Totally.
Nice.
Yeah.
Look at Adam over here waxing poetic for us. I'm here for it.
Adam.
Well, let me say this. If this is our wrap up, I guess I would just say that what would help, if people are interested, only if you're interested, what would help us, veteran filmmakers. I forgot to mention that this film has a 90% real veteran cast. 90% of this film, real veterans. you watch the movie, at the very end credits, you will see photos of everybody who's a real veteran. It like always makes people cry. So yes, sorry, Stacy and Joe, you will cry in this movie, but it will be happy tears. And there's a up and coming actor in there who's also a veteran who plays the group therapy leader. His name is Morgan Freeman, and I think he's got a great future ahead of him. And if he sticks with it, he's
Well,
also
dang.
yeah.
Good on you for
Gotta go
giving
watch
him
it
an
now.
opportunity.
I never heard that name before.
We'll be on
So
the lookout.
maybe we can get
for
him in
what
the
he has to
military.
offer. We'll be on the lookout.
Exactly.
Is he in the IRR?
Yeah. So anyway, it's available right now. And if people want to help us, the other thing I wanted to say is this is an impact film. So there are 3 nonprofits that are woven into the fabric of this film: the Bob Woodruff Foundation, the Mission Continues, and then Every Town for Gun Safety Support Fund. They're kind of non-political arm. And again, I'm very much like a nonprofit, activist. And so at the end of this movie, you will have an opportunity to directly support 3 amazing veteran nonprofits. And we raised $53,000 through our Pay It Forward campaign. End credits of the movie, you're in the theater, a QR code comes on screen. Over 1,500 people have scanned that QR code to give more money to purchase tickets for veterans to see the film. So literally, as we're speaking right now, my team and I, we are sending emails out to all of the major veteran organizations, including the American Legion. Maybe you guys can help me get to the person who does it. And we are giving away free codes to rent this film on Apple or on Amazon. So we are just trying to spread the word about this film. And that's really what helps us in this moment, because we are, as much as it's an amazing film and it's beloved by everybody who watches it, we are a little guy. The Hollywood, I can't even tell you. You don't want to know how difficult it is to punch with the big guys in Hollywood. And like, they don't really want us tiny films to kind of like take up any space there. So if you're a vet and you want to see more stories about veterans, if you just want to see more films, like original films that aren't just some, reductive sequel, whatever it is, the way you do it is you have to either see it in a theater or you have to rent it at home, because the only stuff that makes it to Hollywood is like the money, the transaction of it all. Once a film goes to streaming, it's basically out to pasture. Nobody can quantify what happens at that point, so we are trying to send a message to Hollywood that people want to see veteran stories and look at. If this film can succeed, we could be like, look, we got all the ingredients. We got the actors, we got the awards, we got the accolades, but I need the audience to show up for it. So that's our call to action to our veteran community in this moment.
I don't think people realize how formulaic what is being sent our way is until you watch something that has heart to it. And yeah. I'd love to get into that, but I know we're running on the tail end of what we're doing here. Yeah. But oh man, this has been great.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you guys. Yeah, this was great.
Kyle, it's been great, man.
Yeah. Alphas, don't forget to log on to mydeadfriendzoemovie.com if you want to learn where you can watch the film. As Kyle mentioned, you can go to Apple Plus, you can go to Amazon, go to the theater, watch it with some popcorn with your best friend, your partner, or go by yourself if you're an introvert like me. We also have Kyle's website, Hausmann-Stokes.com. That'll be in the show notes.
Kyle.com was taken.
I know.
Or the Kyle Hausmann. No, don't want to lead you astray. We're going to have those websites in our show notes. We'll also have the social media handles as there as well. So just watch the movie. I'm going to. Right when I get my therapist logged in, we're going to watch together. So Kyle, really a treat. Thank you for going out there and telling the military story before you even became entertainment storyteller. You're a master of a storyteller, and I'm glad you're doing it professionally now. These stories need to be told, and keep doing what you're doing. I look forward to seeing more.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure to be here. I mean, I would not be where I am without the Legion. So this is yet another full circle thing for me.
Thanks again for visiting us today. Alphas, please stick around for some scuttlebutt after the break.
Honoring those who came before us. The American Legion pays perpetual respect for all past military sacrifices to ensure they are never forgotten by new generations. We are veterans strengthened in America. We are the American Legion.
Okay, Alphas, we hope you had a great break. We sure know Whirly Joe did. But now it's time for some scuttleboosh.
Yeah, and it's Community Garden Week, y'all, and I'm excited because it's time to watch our little green babies grow. Gentlemen, are you familiar with the term agritherapy?
No,
It
I'm
is something
not.
that I became very familiar with because during season 3 of my show, After Action on PBS, we focused an entire episode to veteran farmers. And I learned all about the positive impacts of gardening and farming and how it is used to improve mental and physical health. And it's a term, they call it agritherapy, and many veterans are turning to it to help improve their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Agritherapy is also known as horticulture therapy or farming therapy. It's an innovative and effective approach to improving mental health and physical health with the well-being of veterans. It's engaging activities related to farming and gardening. Veterans can find a sense of purpose, reduce stress, and connect with nature. I happen to love it. I've got horses. You guys know that. Agritherapy offers veterans powerful means of healing through the simple and yet profound act of farming and gardening. It engages with the land. Veterans can find solace, which I happen to love being by myself. Ask my husband. It builds new skills and connects with the community. I think it's fantastic because you can have a couple of chickens if you want and get some eggs. If you have too many eggs, you can sell them to your neighbor or give them to your neighbor and connect with other people.
For thousands of dollars, I might add.
Maybe a couple of quarters, but the healing power of nature should not be underestimated. My horses do not judge me. I can go out there and spill my heart and soul to them, and they will never turn their backs on me. Spending time outdoors has been scientifically proven to reduce stress, anxiety, and depression. I know this firsthand because I am a living proof that I am still here because of them. Farming provides ample opportunity to be outside under the open sky, surrounded by greenery. I absolutely love it. The exposure can be very soothing and can be a positive impact on mental health. Farming has physical activity. I'm out there scooping crap every day. Every day. Horses, they poop every 2 hours. It's never ending, and it's fantastic for my physical well-being. I have a ton of physical issues. It keeps me moving and scooping always. Listen, these feel-good chemicals can help mitigate symptoms of PTSD. It does. Farming is a form of therapy because it has routine and structure. I need that. It keeps you living in the present. I have no choice but to get up every morning and go feed my horses, or else they'll starve. So having something else depending on me means I have no other choice, and having a purpose means everything. It's nurturing life. Again, there's something profoundly therapeutic about nurturing something else that's living for you. And you may not want to have a living being depending on you, so have some plants that depend on you going out to water and nurture their lives. So, hey, have a garden. And then there's something about creating a supportive community, shared experiences in farming, having a communal living, having a community garden, something in your backyard. You don't have to have a farm, a sprawling farm like me. I have 40 some acres, but you can have a community garden in your suburbia. And that means all the difference too. Plus there's skills and independence. Farming equips veterans with valuable skills like learning how to garden, put seeds in the ground and watching it grow. That's so rewarding. For those of you looking to explore agritherapy, there's resources and programs that are available to you and to guide you on your journey. Organizations like Warrior Allegiance can help you. I'm going to put that in the show notes if you're interested. There's going to be a link for that. Embracing agritherapy is awesome. Veterans can cultivate a new sense of purpose and well-being. So you can do that one seed at a time, y'all. Many veterans are finding farming and beekeeping. That's right, beekeeping, so you can make it sweet as honey. And it can be therapeutic and meaningful at the same time. Work often comes with a community of veterans you can rely on. Community, and you can find your tribe. It's free and exclusive to veterans who are interested in beekeeping and agriculture programs through your VA as well. Go to your VA website. You can find it there in the show notes too. So
I've been talking to my wife about that stuff for a while. We're definitely interested.
So I hadn't heard the term agritherapy, but 100% everything else I'm familiar with and can 100% say that, like, yes, I think that what we're ultimately going to realize is that true healing happens in concert with all the other things that we talk about, but in nature and in community. And the simple practical act of connecting with the land on a regular basis, I think when we have these, folks on, and even with our experiences, that I have the opportunity to really talk with, some of our indigenous brothers and sisters, they come and say the same thing. And that's what, like, their connection, that has been able to maintain, for centuries, that balance. And I think, through our Western progression into a digital technology society of suburban city driven life, like, we've lost that connection, and now we're rediscovering, the way that it has always been up until most recently. So that's incredible. And I'm going to check out some of those resources too, because I just bought 30 acres and we got to turn the thing
Yeah.
into a permaculture farm, guys.
Nice. Hey, if you're into plant-based tongue twister, if you're into plant-based medicines, you can also think about growing your own cannabis. There are classes out there where you can grow your own marijuana. So
yeah, what class felony is that?
well, check your state's laws.
I think it's a
first
class
and foremost.
Anything under 3 tons.
Yeah, I think.
Well, speaking of, there's big news that the Military Times released in mid-March. The DoD announced a $9.8 million commitment to study psychedelics and the associated therapies for active duty troops. Officials at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center confirmed that they will receive one of two $4.9 million grants from the Department of Defense to fund a study on MDMA. This psychedelic drug will be given to active duty Army personnel with mild to moderate post-traumatic stress disorder to study the psychological flexibility patients experience as a potential mechanism of MDMA's therapeutic effect. The second grant, provided as part of the 2024 Defense Appropriations Act, will fund a separate MDMA-assisted therapy study done in partnership between Emory University and StrongStar, a medical consortium and training network based at the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio. Major Aaron Wolfgang, the head of inpatient psychiatry at Walter Reed, who specializes in treating PTSD, will be the lead author and physician of the double-blind placebo trial. Wolfgang is the first author in a systemic review and overview of MDMA and MDMA-assisted therapy featured in the January issue of the American Journal of Psychiatry. The article, written by a cohort of leading psychedelic researchers, describes common misconceptions about MDMA due to its close association with classical psychedelics like LSD, psilocybin, and mescaline. Unlike other psychedelics, the paper says MDMA uniquely induces pro-social subjective effects of heightened trust and self-compassion while maintaining an ego functioning, as well as cognitive and perceptual lucidity. What the heck does that mean? I can tell you that it basically means you feel like you have a more open heart while still being very present in this reality, and therefore being open to maybe feeling and spending time with some things that may be very hard to get to. And when you do that in conjunction with a medically trained therapist, you can have, sometimes what's considered to be many years of therapy. It varies for the individual, but even in like a 30 minute to 1 hour session. So the apparent gain of function suggests what advocates for the legalization of MDMA have been saying for decades. And I would probably say it's not necessarily the legalization. It's more that it's allowed for a medical use therapeutic. And so what those advocates have been saying for decades is the drug is uniquely positioned to be a breakthrough therapeutic for PTSD and other depressive disorders. I would say that we have a federal bill with the organization, the coalition that I'm affiliated with, the Veteran Mental Health Leadership Coalition, in partnership with our parent organization, Reason for Hope. And Reason for Hope is kind of a think tank looking at deaths of despair and helping to advocate for breakthrough therapies like MDMA and psilocybin. So a breakthrough therapy, what that means is the FDA has said it's an actual designation. And I believe MDMA got it in 2017, and psilocybin or magic mushrooms got it in 2018 or 2019. And it means that it's not addictive, and it's significantly better than what's currently available for those treatment modalities. And so that means that this therapeutic is having profound effects, and the FDA already says, look, this is a breakthrough from what we currently have. But the DEA says, well, it's a controlled one substance. So illegal stamp on it everywhere, and all the regulatory problems with trying to access a controlled one substance, even for a trial program. We have legislation that was passed in Texas in 2021, kind of the first of its kind, to be able to allow a pilot program for veterans through the Baylor College School of Medicine to be able to get a psilocybin and MDMA pilot program. And 4 years later, we just started dosing the first patients.
Our veterans should not have to go to Costa Rica to do this stuff, which Costa Rica is beautiful.
My biggest issue is this. If it's proven not to be habit forming, and you can put some sort of like, okay, so you know, you shouldn't be driving intoxicated, right? If you can limit somebody driving while intoxicated, say, same thing here, tax it, sell it, whatever. Why would you limit its access? It just boggles my mind that you would allow somebody to put a synthetic drug that's probably far worse for somebody's physical system.
So
I know that there's pharmaceutical, there's probably money, government, there's a whole litany of things that's well above my brain.
Well, it's like what we're talking, and so that's why I clarified on like legalization, because we're not talking about like legalization or decriminalization, which would be like widespread, access and the ability to possess and take these things, without any kind of legal ramifications. What we're talking about is like changing the controlled substance level from Schedule 1 to maybe a Schedule 2. So it's still a controlled substance. It's still illegal to have. It just means we've reduced the regulatory barriers and hurdles for, like, say, a university to even get a program set up and get access to put people through to collect the research. So what we're advocating for right now with the Breakthrough Therapies Act is being able to reduce those regulatory barriers in time to programs and access being stood up. And we're also advocating for like medical use. So this is under the administration of a trained professional that's done while like positive control and oversight. So it's not like something that it's prescribed to you. You can go home and take it and have a session. We're not there yet. We have to, it's this balance of like, we need more research. Well, we do and we don't. We know these things work and we know the statistics that we currently face. But what people are saying is, I, as this state governing body, want our own body of research and evidence that goes along with this, with our veterans, that can be controlled by our systems and processes and infrastructure. So it's being adopted into the governing systems and the agencies that exist today. And what we're doing is we're fundamentally changing the way that healthcare happens and works, because some of these sessions are anywhere from 2 to can be 12 hours. Well, our medical system is not optimized for a doctor to sit with a patient for that long. And then you're talking about, somebody who maybe has one to a couple treatments and has exponential improvement over what's currently available. Well, I'm sorry, but that's not a good financial model for the companies that want you. Well, maybe I don't necessarily know that they want you to, but what happens is you end up getting on a medication and stay on it for forever. Well, that's a good business model. And these are kind of looking those business models in the face. So maybe I'll just kind of wrap there to say, like, it's a complex issue. No one organization, no one agency, no one state, has all the solutions. That's literally,
Adam. So like a layperson like myself, if I'm hearing you right, a pharmaceutical company is going to want somebody who would want somebody to be on a drug for a lifetime versus somebody who could be healed from a drug in three pills, right? So why would they sell somebody 3 pills when they could sell them 3 million pills? Is that what you're saying?
It's like disposable batteries.
That's definitely a question, but also like our analysis is that, you know, pharmaceutical companies don't even really care about this so much because they don't ever see that it's going to be a big market. So they're not going to make any kind of investment, and they're just kind of on their current trajectory, just working on the drugs and the things that they work on. And they're not intervening. They're not trying to block these things.
Mm-hmm.
And some will emerge. There will be like some synthetic, versions of these things. But another thing is a lot of these things like psilocybin or ibogaine, like I was talking about, these are natural substances that occur in nature. There's only, and they call them botanicals through the Food and Drug Administration. There's only 2 botanicals that have ever gotten FDA approval process, because it's not a molecule synthesized in a lab for this one specific allopathic treatment pathway. It's like, it's nature, the molecule, and it's so complex. And it's like, how can we take that and approve that through the FDA?
I mean,
it's only happened 2 times ever.
Even with things like cannabis, all we have is hundreds of years of documented Native American use. I'm sorry, it's not enough. We need 300 years.
Touche.
Couldn't agree with you guys more. So it's a big conversation. A lot of things are happening. We're finding the way to get people treatment to the programs right now, right? So there are programs and clinics, things that exist outside. There are legal models that exist right now in Oregon, in Colorado, and there unfortunately is also an underground right now. There's also church models, because under a church model you can administer these things as a sacrament. So people are getting access in a lot of different ways, and it's still very kind of taboo and unknown in a lot of respects. More research and data is coming out, infrastructure is getting developed, but the veterans that are getting through that are really partnering with the leading researchers and scientists and academia within like the legislative and the different agency systems to be able to share these stories of transformation. And then together, everybody is kind of co-solutioning right now. And it's a really complex problem that nobody really exactly knows what it looks like yet, which is absolutely a wild thing to be experiencing and seeing in real time. So it's exciting. There's a lot of progress. There's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of hope, but it's also still very early stages. So we'll have the link to the longer story in the show notes, but ultimately it wraps up with Wolfgang sharing his hopes that a new generation of soldiers could benefit from the drug's consideration as a breakthrough therapy.
And I just want to say also that there are people that don't understand this stuff, and if there's anything that you allow to get you angry, you're giving something like that power over you. And you should always do research. You should always do research about these things that you don't understand. And so a lot of times people that are like Adam, that have done the research on this stuff, it makes no sense why it's so hard to get these things done, because the cost of waiting is what we know is that these treatments work. And what we know is that what veterans are dealing with right now is not working for most. And there has to be a lifeline. There has to be hope at the end of the tunnel. So put pressure. If this is something that you believe in, do some research, and feel free to put a little pressure on your legislative, your senators, your state representatives to start really make it easier for these veterans to take care of their mental health, because this is generational stuff we're talking about. If these kids of veterans can get their moms and dads in a place where they can be functioning members of society, we're going to be a stronger country. And that's just what it comes down to. I think we talked a lot today about this balance of finding mental, physical, and in some cases, you mentioned, Adam, spiritual health. And I think that we are starting to sort of finally realize how important we need a little bit of everything. what Stacy was talking about with the farming. There's just something about making something with your hands that feels like you're a part of this world. And I think that we're so desperate for connection that we find it in superficial ways. We get these little dopamine hits off of relating to someone who's on TikTok or something like that. But really, we need more. We need more. We need to create. We need to make stuff with our hands, and we need to work on ourselves so that we're good for our fellow veterans and for our families.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think the other things is on the other side of that is the ability to be like more yourself, maybe the vision of yourself you hope you could be, the vision of yourself for your family and in the community, in service, like showing up, taking joy in just like the practical things, that interest you. I think what our community saw is like just there's like a big gap and challenge between time and service into like feeling like you're in that like sweet spot of life again.
Yeah.
And so it's just there's an assortment of these things that exists out there. Let's understand them. Let's find ways to like bring them online in programs. And for these kind of taboo ones, like let's talk about it. Let's figure it out, like what the best pathway is. Let's figure out how like maybe a better, more holistic system. And then at the same time, there's the ability for you to just like plug into your local creation, right outside or wherever you can go and find it. And like, what does that do for you right then and there? What does it do when you show up at Legion Post 43 in Hollywood for, the talk that's, coming in, or, maybe there's the reason that you show up at your local post and you're there, in community, getting to do something outside of yourself, talk about the things you're interested in, have a vision and a hope for the future and whatever that looks like for you at the intersection of things that are interesting, because life should be fun. It should be exciting, and it should be filled with, friends, family, and joy. And you have to have the thing that like gives you excitement, to get out of bed. And so I think like there's a message of like hope in there as well. Because just it can't be all about like doom and gloom, all the time. And I think what we're saying is like we'll acknowledge it and we'll persevere through it, and then let's be that out front best representations and versions of ourselves, because I think that's worth aiming for.
Amen.
Right on. All right, Alphas. Thanks for listening. Go check out that movie. Grab a friend, grab a buddy, and
with consent, of course.
And a Kleenex. You can subscribe to our podcast, our newsletter, and send us mail and guest recommendations at legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima. We'll see you next week.